do you call two men mansplaining each other?
For example, Donald Trump.
I believe that Harvey Weinstein or many other...
Sorry, I'm going to go into a little bit to a rabbit hole. The British didn't create, that the French didn't create. I know you will hate me, but...
Hello? Hello, Presidente.
So you need to... Let's check the cameras. Alright.
I always forget.
Do you want to close the door?
No, we don't.
Let's leave it open. This is the last meeting of the week. This is the last meeting of this week because we are airing tomorrow. A few changes actually. I haven't told you yet, but I decided to actually make this the last meeting of the week. So instead of doing at 7 a.m., it's not that as if someone really cared and was waiting for the for the episodes, but we're gonna start airing at 5 p.m. because it is the last meeting of the week. And normally I like to record in a bundle in advance. And this one we're going to record today and we're going to air tomorrow. So this is the lunchtime on the 22nd. And tomorrow 23rd this is going to air. And there is no... I don't want to say anything that disrespects any of the guests that have been sitting where you are.
Oh, please do, though.
Not yet. I'm not that famous. But the conversation that I have with you are the ones that I really enjoy. So, as we promise each other, this is better. I sound more professional like this.
Much more, like a deeper voice.
Yes. So. Every quarter, at least, you will be invited, and you will make me very happy if you honor the invitation. Hello, Filippo, Sebastio, welcome back.
Hi, everyone. I want to start this podcast with just the pun that I did before, but I will ask the question. I want you to look at the camera and answer to it. So, Fernando, what do you call two men mansplaining each other?
Do I have to look at you? Or do I have to look at the camera?
At the camera.
See, now you are mansplaining. A podcast.
Exactly.
But, you know, really, I think that is mansplaining still a bad thing? Because there are so many.
It's always a bad thing. Like, but is it still a thing in the ongoing debate? I think less and less. I hope people are becoming more conscious about it. At least we, as people, become conscious about it.
Is there anything different that people get offended about nowadays, or really?
No.
Or
no.
is it that maybe I'm disconnected, or people are a little bit tired of being offended?
They're tired. It's changing a lot. I think the big wave of woke and wokeism really peaked before COVID and the Me Too era and all the protests that we've seen around the world. And right now there's a little bit of a backlash, like everything. You know, you don't see people trying to pull down statues from around the world. Whatever is your judgment about it, but you don't see that anymore. You see way less calling out,
yes,
which it's never actually too useful in my opinion. So I think there is less and less. There's a little bit of a backlash, which is healthy and good. But we can take the best thing out of every type of movement. I think there are many good lessons that we can take out of the woke movement that we experience, and there are gonna be very good lessons so that we can take from these other swing of the pendulum. Yeah,
and I think that maybe it was the sensor going off on how people were living within their own set of ideals, and they surrounded themselves with the people that more or less thought the same as them, and how necessary it is to get out of that. I woke up this morning quite early. I told you before, and I was thinking in bed. And I had this idea. I would like to create a secret club. That is actually not very secret, but I think it would be very productive to do a club called the Antagonists, or if you have a better name, you can. I'm not jealous of the branding of this idea. The idea of the Antagonists is, how to fight the bad effects of social media. This being constantly fed the type of information that you already have by artificially creating a group in which people that come in, first of all, they need to have an open mind and they need to be peaceful and civil, but they need to come with different ideas to the table. It's a book club. I imagine it as a book club.
Is it physical or is it digital?
Physical. I mean, I imagine it physical, but let's start with physical. So, by turns, each one of the members would propose a book to the rest, and by definition, you would have to be reading things that are completely opposite to what you normally consume. And normally, when you read something of the other side of the, let's say from the other side of the pond, you normally change your ideas a little bit, no? So I this type of thinking that before was not necessary because multicultural was an adjective that was normally good, or let's say eclectic or ubiquitous in terms of political spectrum. Now we need to make a special effort in bringing that back.
Well, I would call it the square because it's a place where people gather, meet, and talk about things. And since you already have all this infrastructure, why don't you start to think about getting different people, 2 point of view, and having a debate? And there is a beautiful podcast that already does it, but they do a very high level, of course, which is called Intelligence Square, and they invite always people to come and talk about the case pro-Israel and against Israel, or the case pro something against something. And for as much one of the position can be like really revolting to you in some cases, it's always very good to see a debate between two different parties. My grandfather, what he used to do was always buy a very wide range of newspaper every day, and from the right leaning to the left leaning, and then go through them. He was also a politician, so he had the case to do it. But I think there's a very good exercise, like keeping a tab open on all the different newspaper, even newspaper that you really dislike, because it's good to see their interpretation of the facts.
Yes, you need to have it, and it gives you also a very good idea on what interests are out there. Like, for example, this morning there was one case of corruption in one of the biggest political parties in Spain, no? So it's not 4 columns, but it's the equivalent to opening in 4 columns with a header. So the center right covered everything. It was first news. The center left, 0 in the first 3 lines, and it's the opposite. If it's the corruption is on the other side. So this type of looking at things from different angles is super necessary. The idea of this podcast is to learn more about things that are a little bit alien to you. So it's good.
You've been traveling quite a bit.
It depends. It's quite a bit. Is always relative.
Relative to the median human being that doesn't travel.
I always do. I have been telling you every year for the last 3 years at least, Filippo, this year I'm going to travel less, or maybe for the last couple of years. I have been traveling quite a bit. Man, the thing is, first it was Christmas, and we had to stay in Italy for undesired reasons for a long time. Then we came back quite late. I did a few trips already at the beginning of the year, and then we did go to Australia. I had to do a business trip, but this time I brought the family with me. So I would love to have a phrase in English that was as nice sounding as unire l'utile col dilettevole. Even though the other time we were at dinner and I say unire il divertente col dilettevole.
Exactly. Well,
it's putting together the fun and the business.
Exactly. To merge fun and business, basically. How's your relationship with traveling? How's it been changing with time?
I like it less and less. To the point in which I would be ready not to do a traveling holiday again. If I could choose my next summers, I would just go back to the hometown of my father, very close to where I was born as well, and just spend there a month.
Is that your idea of holiday?
My idea of holidays, of course, the element of the beach that you normally cannot enjoy during the year, the outdoors. But there are two possible trips. There are two types of trips. The one is a trip of the physical one, going to places and discovering places that you have maybe only seen, only read in books or now seen in videos. And then there is another type of travel, which is the interior travel, which is the one that you only enjoy when you have time to think, time to be in silence, time to read books that are deep and hard and dense, and that's the type of holiday that I really is appeal for me. I still have a couple of travels that I want to do, physical ones. But I would love them to be very long. So if you tell me, Fernando, I give you 2 6-month trip, and those will be the last ones for the rest of your life. Maybe 3 months. One is the Trans-Siberiana, because I've never
Trans-Siberian
Railroad.
Travel, yeah.
I've never been to Russia, and I think Russia in itself is a topic that is deep and vast. Yeah, it does fascinate me. And the other one is South America, because I've never been to.
You've never been to South America?
I'm 90% of the books I read are South American
writers.
You have
such a wide knowledge about South American writing.
But it's
well, it's in your imagination.
How
do you say imaginario? It's in your
immaginario.
Imagination. Well, it's beautiful when a place it's there and it's waiting for you, and it lives in your mind until you finally travel there, and then you try to meet the expectation. I'm asking all of this about travel because, as I was telling you before, I'm in a period where I'm reading a lot of things from these, or listening a lot of things from this philosopher that I really like. Her name is Agnes Callarde. She's a philosopher from University of Chicago, and she wrote a beautiful essay on the New Yorker, and it's called "The Case Against Travel." And the case against travel is basically 2 points. The first point is we travel either to do something unique, special that we have not done before, that we don't do in everyday life, or we travel to connect with community around us. Well, today travel, as it's laid out, whenever we try to do something unique, like going to Japan and looking at sumo wrestling, we have not done enough preparation and understanding of the local culture to actually enjoy the event. Another example could be going to see some Chinese art in China, you or in Taiwan. You go there and then you don't really understand the beauty of Chinese art because you don't really haven't had the time to study it. The other case for travel is to mingle with the local society, the local communities, which is something that we don't really do this anymore.
No, because there is a constraint in time, and there is a problem with safety, because there are certain communities that they look at tourists as potential source of of economical sudden benefit. And then there is just laziness, and then there is superficiality, which is something that I deeply hate. Like the postcard collection.
Exactly.
It's something despicable. It's like so I'm gonna go even a little bit further. I'm gonna be a hater a little bit more intensely. It's the same philosophy of being in the beach. And again, if someone is listening to this part, I know you will hate me, but maybe let's just scrap that. Sorry. Just, I don't know. Understand my point of view.
Screw you.
Screw you. It makes me very angry, and I found myself doing it sometimes, and even my wife has done it sometimes. Is the fact that when you are in front of a sunset, the first thing that people do is to take a picture.
Yeah.
It makes me very angry.
Yeah.
Or the same approach of when you are in a concert, and when the band is about to come, or when they play a song, the first thing people do is to take out the phone.
Exactly.
It's like, you're there.
Exactly.
And nowadays there is going to be, plus it's stupid because there is going to be media coverage that is
Yeah.
way of higher quality.
Yeah.
What, I don't know. I don't understand that greediness of trying to possess
Yeah.
everything.
There is the endearing thing of seeing people going to a art gallery and or like a museum more than art gallery, and seeing a Van Gogh for the first time in their life and taking out the phone and take a picture of it. While the web, it's of course it's littered with images from the same painting of Van Gogh, and they're much better quality. But then there is also something endearing of someone who's actually, okay, I want to capture this moment, but I don't know how to capture, so I'm just gonna take a picture of it. But that's probably not what a lot of people think. A lot of people wanna exactly travel to show that they travel. It's status symbol. So they wanna say, I was here, I was present, I've done this. So and that's something that about social media we already talked in the past, and I don't think we need to go back to it. But it's interesting, and I like your point about Latin America, because you have deeply studied Latin America. You have studied
I'm still doing
through this literature. Like, but you have a very good knowledge. I think we like the same writers, Kermeta, Bolaño, and so on. And the moment that you will get there, it's gonna be such I think a reckoning moment for you. You're gonna see you're gonna see the literature that you read. You're gonna see the places. You're gonna identify some of the culture that you dreamt for quite a bit, and I think that's gonna be. But because you have done the preparation, I think that's the antidote to bad traveling. It's be prepared.
I don't have to see. Yeah, I don't have to see any monuments if I go to Lima. Yeah. Let's say I'm very sad, by the way, because so I read very recently the last Mario Vargas Llosa book from Mario Vargas Llosa, and at the end of the day he says it's going to be his last novel. It's finished, finito. Yeah, but he's 80.
He won a Nobel Prize, didn't he?
Yes, in 2014. I don't know. He's just the thing is when the thing about Vargas Llosa. Sorry, I'm gonna go into a little bit to a rabbit hole, but when the good thing about good writers is that when you're reading them, you realize it's something amazing, but you cannot tell why. Is the way and especially in the case of Vargas Llosa when he's writing, and it's not the same. It's not the same case in other Nobel Prize winners. There is they gave the Nobel Prize to Orhan Pamuk from Turkey a few years ago, which I read a few books. Very boring, and I don't think maybe
with all the due respect to Pamuk, with all the due respect. To
with all the due respect, but man, especially no, because there is one called I think Snow. Then located in Kars, in the east part of Turkey. Man, it's just unbearable. But maybe because I don't read in Turkish, so I cannot judge. But I don't have the feeling from the translations that is let's say so majestic. Anyway, sorry for this.
No, I love it. I love it. Actually, it's very good. What are the most influential writers? The word that inspire you the most that come from Latin America?
I change periodically. I think the one that has accompanied me from the beginning to now is Vargas Llosa. Lately, I am now going to the so I've been reading a lot about the Latin American boom. So let's say from Cortázar, Borges, then to our time. Now what I'm reading is actually Borges is not from the boom; it's a little bit before. But I'm reading the period just before that. So Alejo Carpentier, Carlos Fuentes, Miguel Ángel Asturias. Miguel Ángel Asturias is an amazing writer that without him there is no conversations in the Cathedral of Vargas Llosa. So those writers, especially for someone that loves Spanish culture, which was which disappeared in the 20th century because of the civil war and the dictatorship that came after. It's super rich. This is what I like about South America. And there is another topic, which is if you understand South America, you actually destroy woke culture vanishes when you understand South America.
It's interesting. Maybe you can take a moment to explain a little bit more.
No, so there is if you understand, for example, how the Spanish language so nowadays, let's think about how woke culture understand colonialism, okay? Especially in South America. It's like as if bunch of bad men went somewhere that was really good. It was like the paradise. Screwed everything, stole everything, imposed archaic ruling, and submitted the local population, the one that survived, because it is implied that a lot of them died, which is totally true. They died for, in many cases, involuntary reasons, which was illnesses, virus, and so on. There is another way to look at it. South America was a continent with many different tribes, all of them with different languages. They could not understand each other. They were constantly fighting each other. They were people that how to say venerava.
They adore.
They adore
praise,
gods.
Sorry,
they praise gods that, and they had to make certain sacrifices to keep them satisfied and to avoid punishment. When the Spanish arrived to South America, apart from ugly things that people used to do at the time everywhere, they brought together one continent under one language, and that allowed, because if you actually think about South America, yes, there is the Ecuadorian culture, there is the Peruvian culture, there is the Bolivian culture, Uruguayan, Argentinian, but South America is one. As much as they want to say, the Colombian and the Venezuelan, at the end of the day, they're kind of like brothers. And if we take the historical elements apart, there is a sense of brotherhood that the British didn't create, that the French didn't create, that not other culture create, that Chinese are not creating now. So if you understand the positive of a part of history that from today's understanding is apparently horrendous, then you realize that in order to analyze reality you need to have nuance, you need to a nuanced approach, and you need to historically contextualize things.
I feel like you're referencing to the Spaniards takeover of the Aztec Empire. Is that correct? And it's a right. I mean, it's a clear example of a new power that comes into a new region, which was Mexico, which was ruled by the Aztec. And the Aztec were like not favorably seen by the surrounding communities. The Aztec had an empire that used to be exploitative, and
I'm talking about South America. Mexico is a slightly different
No,
case.
but I think if it kind of fuels your case, where the Spaniards came, they allied with the different tribes that
were being punished by the Aztecs, which actually they were not called the Aztecs. They were a different name. It was actually the Mexicals.
The Mexicals, yeah, and they all allied together. But I mean, I see that parallelism. I'm not an historian expert, so I won't dig too much. But going to Mexico and see how much the history of Mexico, the post-Columbian history of Mexico, is a mix. It's not or Spaniards, people dominating Mexico, but it was a mix of local people and the Spaniards, the Mexican and the Spaniards creating a new cultural community was beautiful, because you can see how they have created a beautiful culture that it comes to today. And I also felt in the moment that only thinking about the story as colonialism, one power against subjugating another, is not enough. It was not enough to explain Mexico. Mexico was way more. This history was way more nuanced, and still today, of course, there is racism. Of course, there are still structural problems in Mexico, but it wasn't definitely as as black and white. Of course, there are more other Latin American writers are gonna disagree with you, including the Las Venas Abiertas de Latinoamérica, which is the book by
Gabriel García Márquez.
No, Marquez is the Argentinian one who died recently. Why don't you have a look at
Las Venas Abiertas de Latinoamérica?
Las Venas Abiertas de Latinoamérica, which is
now I just lost my expert.
Let me Las Venas. Eduardo Galeano.
Galeano was a dickhead. Yeah, was a socialist dickhead.
No, but I mean, it would be great for your next episode to have a pro Galeano and against Galeano, or a book debate about this. Would be super interesting.
Already, very few people watch this podcast. If I do one pro and one anti Galeano, would be very bad.
Fair enough.
But you know something, and then we go back to whatever conversation you want to take, whatever you want to take this conversation to. There was it's very funny because in the Spanish conquest occupation of South America or Central America in general, one of the funniest things for me was that there was a council among religious mandataries that, in order to decide whether the Indians were human or not.
Yeah.
Whether they were more animal or more human. And they spent few weeks talking about it. The conclusion was that they were like human. So if they were like human, they were creatures of God, so they could not be enslaved. So in the case of South America, religion, the Catholic religion that we can, let's say, talk long and deep about the list of crimes they have committed in history.
Yeah.
In this case, they had an amazing influence on them. Yeah. So the Crown of Spain, following the guidelines of the Church, established that the Indians were not slaves, were subjects of the Crown. So they could not be enslaved, and when that happened, was something done illegal against the crown by, rogue ex-convicts that went to South America to escape the law and were doing there whatever
There's a beautiful movie about it, Mission. Have you ever watched it with Robert De Niro?
Long time ago.
It's really a movie to be watched and a beautiful soundtrack. Going back to literature, because you have this strong knowledge about Latin American.
See, now I said Las Venas Abiertas Latin America, Gabriel García Márquez.
No, but you do have, because I always see you in new books, and they're always from most of the time they're from Latin American writers. What would you recommend to someone just introducing himself or themselves to Latin America novels? What would you like? These are the books that you can start to read. These are the ones that I would recommend, and then.
That's a difficult. Okay, to enter, I would recommend Luis Sepúlveda.
Oh yeah,
because his books are short, and he's close to us. Yeah. Actually, Luis Sepúlveda moved to Gijón, to Asturias, where I come from, and in my region he was the first death of COVID.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
Do you know that Sepúlveda was my favorite writer growing up? Like, from the moment that I read the cat and the seagull that taught him how to fly, I basically for 10 years whatever I read in Spanish was from Sepúlveda. I remember some beautiful book like La Vida de Torero, El Deserto di Atacama. The Atacama Desert. There are
Patagonia
Express is fantastic, and there are a lot of short stories, and that I would strongly recommend. And it's true, it was an easy writer for me, and he was one of the one that created first for me this big imagination of Latin America, and definitely strongly endorse the choice of Luis Sepúlveda.
Mario Benedetti, Uruguayan writer, not as tough as the let's say Latin Americans of the boom, because you need to avoid the early Vargas Llosa. You need to avoid the early Gabriel Garcia Marquez. You need to avoid Cortázar because Cortázar is unbearable.
Yeah.
I mean, Cortázar, you read it because in the same way that you drink natural wine, because you want to like him.
It's an acquired taste.
You want to like him, but I still find his jobs more work than pleasure. And the thing is, when you start, for example, if you take a Vargas Llosa, start from the most recent books and go backwards.
And go back.
Yeah, because the first ones were fantastic, but they were hard. They were hard, especially conversaciones en la catedral, conversations in the cathedral, until for the first 100 pages you don't know who's talking, and then you start and because there is no division of scenes, it jumps from one to the other, constant, and then after a while, and this is the magic, then your brain understands for whatever reason. You don't know how it works, but it understands. Same with El Presidente by Miguel Ángel Asturias, another book that for the first 100 pages you're thinking, what the hell am I doing? And it takes you maybe 3 weeks to read the first 100 pages, and then the next 600 go by in 5 days. So yeah, that's a little start.
I would throw in also another one that really opened my heart when I was a younger kid. His name is Osvaldo Soriano. He's an Argentinian.
No, I don't know.
Osvaldo Soriano writes a lot about football, because being in Argentina, there's a lot of tales about football. They're beautiful, but there's also a beautiful book which is called Triste Solitario en Final, and I would really recommend.
Tell me later. I don't have anything to write, but I like to know. I have a method to buy books, which is every time I hear something that I want to read, I put it in my Amazon cart, which in where I have now always like 30-40 books, and when I finish the ones that I have, I order just enough to have free shipment. So I get 3 or 4, and if you want something new. So one that I read during the holidays in Christmas, was it Christmas or was it the summer? I think it was. No, it was the summer. The Man Who Loved Dogs. It's a novelized, a biography-made novel of Trotsky, and the man that killed him, and Ramon Mercantier. Yes, and the two stories of how they mix together. And Leonardo Paura, who is Premio Princesa de Asturias of Literature, which is like the B series Nobel Prize, also has an amazing series of police novels, which are very literary. That one, and then if you want something very funky, Guillermo Arriaga. Guillermo Arriaga is a Mexican writer. He's the one that wrote he writes a lot of cinema. He wrote the script for Amores Perros.
Oh wow!
And his novels are even more intense.
Yeah, the movie was very intense. Amores Perros is a movie that you need to have a very good emotional stability to be able to watch it.
If you have there is one book called Salvar el Fuego, which is in English is Save the Fire. Again, very interlaced. Latin American literature normally is not, let's say, straightforward. It moves around, and it mixes also very blue collar, even let's say poor class Mexican dialect. Let's say the Spanish that
there's a lot of vocabulary that is
a lot of weird vocabulary.
Usual.
Yeah. It took me a while as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, those ones are super interesting.
And of course, I would also throw in the autobiography of Maradona, which is the book that I used to learn
I don't know.
Spanish.
I didn't know he has an autobiography.
I don't know if it's worth reading it.
No, now I want to read it.
You have to be Neapolitan or Argentinian to really appreciate it.
But I'm Spanish with a strong Italian ingredient in my life, so I think I qualify as Argentinian.
And that's
already.
a book that I didn't know Spanish, but I thought, okay, I'm gonna learn Spanish, and then I bought that book, and of course it was full of vocabulary that it's very difficult because it's Argentinian, so you have to really understand what's going on.
Do you want to know what is the book that I use? The parallelism is extremely funny. The book that I bought to learn Italian, the first book in Italian was Io Zlatan.
Of course, of course, it makes sense. And because these are I think these are the best books to read. The entertaining books where you can actually understand
the story.
You know the story, and then
Yeah.
you can actually learn the language. And very charismatic people. I mean,
Yes.
Zlatan, who's like often just reduced to being like only a character, he's actually just been called back by the Milan to be one of the directors for the next season. So that really, shows you a long way how charisma and how
You need tough guys in life.
yeah.
Imagine,
Yeah.
do you think that we are too severe with the generation that comes right after us?
I don't believe in generational talking. I wanna emancipate myself from the more
But there is a change.
there are macro changes. It's very difficult though to say like to define younger and lower generation. There are some general traits. I think the more interesting question for me is that you need to be a tough boss to have. You need to be a Steve Jobs to have a company that succeeds. So you need to have a Zlatan, someone who looks like authoritarian and tough.
In
and,
any generation.
In any generation,
I would
or
agree.
you can have kind leadership. You can have leadership that is inspiring, leadership that it's more like Disney former CEO, who's I don't remember the name, but
Rob Iger.
Rob Iger, who it's a beautiful biography, the one about Rob Iger. I would strongly recommend. I read it; it was really inspiring, and he had a sort of kind leadership, at least what transpires. So I think that's a very interesting question because oftentimes it seems that the main narrative coming from Silicon Valley is that you need to have a tough leadership.
But is it? I think that was the old bosses. If you look at Tim Cook, which is a guy that I let's say intuitively like. I saw the other day an interview done by Dua Lipa to Tim Cook. I thought I was gonna like it. I like Dua Lipa. I'm a big fan of Dua Lipa, but
Super smart.
Yeah, but it was so lame, so PC, so.
Yeah, often when you interview a CEO, often it's
No, but from Dua Lipa, Tim Cook. I mean, you know more or less what he's going to reply. I think nowadays they care too much about the stock price, so they have a very intensive training on how to say things and what to say. I think that just the generation of Steve Jobs, again, sorry about using generation category.
No.
But let's say that style, the style of Elon Musk, they just really don't care. I have my suspicion tells me that Tim Cook behind closed doors, he's not
as nice.
He's not as nice as he looks. Yeah,
it's interesting.
I don't think he can. You need to make tough choices. What does being kind mean, though? For example, if you have a company with a senior vice president that has married a crazy man or woman, I don't make discrimination, and that couple makes his or her life very difficult. It's not his fault, but it's affecting his job, so you have to fire him.
No. But kindness is not about not firing someone who's not productive. It's about often, if you read Walter Isaacson biography of Musk or Steve Jobs, you can see that they're both abusive and often non-tolerant CEOs. It says they are described by Walter Isaacson as such, and Walter Isaacson is definitely not the most woke person, and Walter Isaacson I think also justifies in part this kind of management. For me, it's an open question. I don't have an answer. I just wonder if you can be, for instance, if that abusive part of a component of a leader has to be there to drive results that are not expected, like they are out of the ordinary, such as the one that Musk delivered.
There could be the answer could be maybe not. Because we see where some people see causality, maybe there is only correlation.
Exactly.
Because the fact is that Steve Jobs didn't have a father, or didn't know his father.
Didn't know his father. Yeah.
I mean, of course, he had a father. Elon Musk apparently had a
Very nice.
you know, we say truths in this podcast. Elon Musk had a very abusive father, and you know, you abuse if you have been abused.
Yeah.
You normally don't get a tough character from someone that hasn't seen that before.
Yeah.
And at the same time, those the lack of affection that you have when you're a kid normally is a key driver for success in business because you're trying to complement something that you didn't have. And it is very clear in the case of Musk. It is very clear in the case of Steve Jobs. I don't have the information. I haven't read the biography of Bob Iger. In the case, for example, of Tim Cook, it was very clear that he was coming from a mid-low household. Probably had all the things going on. The fact of growing gay in Alabama was probably not the best.
No.
So he had something to prove to someone.
Yeah.
Maybe it was not. He didn't need to express it in an aggressive way. Probably, that key driver of success, it doesn't have to do with aggressiveness. Just aggressiveness sometimes is present.
I think that's super interesting, and I agree. That's one of the reasons why I never recommend. I don't think it's worth reading books about great leaders and being inspired by it, because it's like you are only seeing the positive cases. So you start to draw, okay, all the toxic leaders are successful, but what about, no one ever reads books about toxic leaders that were not successful because no one published their books. So you get a lot of, you only see the positives, you don't see the negatives. And oftentimes the plain vanilla leaders that are not toxic and are successful, they are not worth to be writing a book about. So that's the other thing that I think. So all those podcasts about, which are super interesting, and one should listen to, like how I made these and so how I build these, and all these books around leadership. Be always very wary because they only tell one side of the story.
Yes. Some of them are interesting if you put them in context. The thing is that the narrative sometimes doesn't work enough because it's not sexy to contextualize things. It's much simpler to name the 5 things that are going to make you successful, or the 7 things, the 7 principles that let's use another name.
For investing, to become rich.
To become rich. Yeah. How do we dismount that? It is a problem. We just need to. I hope that in the same way that there has been I'm hoping I'm sensing a reaction against that crazy wokeness. There is also a reaction moving away from these ubiquitous stories in YouTube about how to make it, how to do it, the secrets to arrive somewhere.
I mean, a lot is paid advertising, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we are bombed with it. And I feel like if you are just introduced to a topic such as investing, and then you listen to these guys like, wait, let me give you the 5 key things about investing, and you don't need to know anything else. Well, that's probably a scam. And the thing is that you can sense that it's a scam when you have a very good understanding. You have read about it, you have gone to the source and so on. But it's very difficult, honestly. It's difficult for investing. It's difficult when we talk about health and taking integrators or taking supplements. Health supplement. We are bombarded with information, with advertising of things that we are not very so familiar with. And we end up, if we are not careful, if you don't do your actual background research, it can be problematic.
Maybe, I have defended for a long time that the solution for many problems that derive from the internet is to end with anonymity in the internet, because in the same way that companies can be sued for false advertisement. I think that a lot of charlatans should be held accountable for selling smoke.
Sure.
And I would believe, I think this conversation needs to be open sooner or later, because when you throw stone and you hide your hand, which is what X or Twitter is all about. I tend to think that if you really had a citizenship ID next to it, or at least in possession of the company, you would think twice about saying things that are not true. If you are there is this guy called Cerrone, or there is one of these that they make big conferences about success on YouTube, and he says, I'm worth $400 million. Like, do you worth? Publish it. And if you say something that is not, if you sell a dream that you haven't achieved, then you should be sued for it. Because if someone spends then €10,000 and they don't become rich because they don't follow the steps, maybe you're selling something that is not really.
I think it's interesting. I mean, there are 2 points. A lot of the time, it's not about anonymity. Just you were presenting a case right now with someone that we know who's the person, and a lot of these ads, they come from individuals that move to Dubai, they rent some fancy car, and they say, okay, yeah, I used to work at Merrill Lynch or this other big bank name for this year. These are the secrets that I know about investing. And of course, and I'm gonna tell to you, of course, there is no secret about investing. I mean, it's there's a lot of general knowledge, and the thing is that where do you draw the line between financial advice, which is highly regulated, and general advice, and also where is this person based? Is he committing a scam? It's complicated. The point about being anonymous on the internet, I agree with you. There's a lot of the being anonymous is an issue, because there's a lot. It's also related about violence, a lot about hate speech, a lot related about scamming,
mass manipulation, political manipulation.
Very much correct. But then the counter argument is always the one about whistleblower. Like, how do you defend whistleblower that decided to post sensitive document about companies, about governments on the internet, if we are all in a way filed with our names filed under different folders?
See, but then I am sure that we can devise a technology that allows for whistleblowing, even though really powerful people are not incentivized to generate that. And let's say being accountable for things that you share online. I think I see your point, and that was the total essence of internet when it came out. The possibility of individuals, of netizens, as they say in China, to have a voice. For Julian Assange to be able to shake that, then everyone forgot geopolitics. I think nowadays having that chance is doing more harm than good for society, frankly. Even though before there were only a few media platforms, media companies that were for sure associated with one side of the political spectrum, but the message was somehow uniform, and that kept the public somehow united. Nowadays, you have created the perfect tool for having a constant Cold War, and we need to avoid that. Then at the same time, whistleblowing, I mean, one thing is social media, one thing are the main platforms. Another thing is maybe we could create a platform ad hoc, especially for whistleblowing. It doesn't have to be. I don't think Twitter is whistleblowing anymore. I think Twitter is Twitter is shaming. Twitter is
become a place with more hate speech, probably, but which has also driven away a lot of the people out of the platform into other platform. Like, I think there are also some market mechanism that are going to rebalance it in a way. Like I used to be to Twitter a lot, and then I realized it was more a place for barking at each other rather than communicate ideas. Unless you were following the very few people that were just like spreading information, which is good. A lot of the time it was just about debating and not debating, barking at each other, insulting each other. So you move away, and then you move to other platform where you see less hate speech. We just need the probably other products that in a way counterbalance. But the main idea remains: to access the internet, you need to have an ID, because in that case.
No, not to access the internet. I think
to access specific platform.
To a specific platform.
Probably we need to regulate platform above a certain number of users to say, like in this case, I'm not an expert. I don't know if this is the solution, but it's certainly an interesting thing to
also for let's say to protect children from pedophiles.
What we have seen with Facebook and the later visit that Zuckerberg paid to the Congress. He apologized for the victim of child abuse that were documented on Facebook in a legal way. I don't know if you follow the...
I didn't follow the whole thing, but I did see a documentary on an Emirates flight called The Rise of the Billionaires that shows how Musk, Bezos, which after seeing that documentary became one of my idols. He's a silent billionaire, by the way. He doesn't speak too much, which is a good thing. And then Zuckerberg and others. And Zuckerberg, I think what happened with the big tech companies, especially the social media ones, we're talking about mainly Facebook, because Facebook, at least in my world, you have Facebook itself, you have Instagram, and then Twitter, because these are the three in which people diffuse information in the West world. TikTok, yes, a little bit. But TikTok, I'm alien to TikTok because we live in one of the few countries where TikTok is banned. I think these people really knew about what they were doing, and they, there is evidence that says that they knew the fact that they were having anxiety and they didn't give a crap. And my bet on the future, and we are not very far from it, is that these companies are going to be treated as the big tobacco. There is going to be massive class actions against them, and we will see many of them. I know that now a lot of people made a lot of money buying stocks of Facebook. Facebook is doing well, but I think they're gonna get a.
There's a very interesting graph posted by Scott Galloway, which I think you really like as well, and it's you see a time series basically of teen suicide in the U.S. and teen self-harm, and you can see it spiking after the
2014,
2008, after the introduction of the smartphone.
Already 2008.
Yeah, after the iPhone. What happened after the introduction of the iPhone? The access to social media became so pervasive and everybody live, and that of course it's just a time series. It doesn't indicate any causation, but that's a strong indication that social media create a lot of unhappiness, and that's you don't need that. There are also a lot of other studies that actually point to causality when access to social media cause unhappiness.
Yes.
Whenever we sit down, we always end up talking about social media.
There must be a reason.
There must be a reason because it's so pervasive in our life. There is, though, one thing that I wanted to say. I am hopeful about certain aspect of AI, especially large language model, without mentioning any. But if you use the very famous one and you ask about specific question about investing, they will give you answers that are always very balanced, they are always very helpful, and they will cut all the BS. They will cut all the get rich scheme, and they will tell you, careful, we're doing this, careful, we're doing that. Always, and that's the same for health. I've seen, of course, they are not perfect tool, but they are tool that they are taking a very moderate and balanced approach toward issues, which I think it's very important in creating knowledge, but also distilling knowledge at a very simple level. Because you can ask, can you explain this as if I were a 5-year-old, and they will do it.
Yeah.
They'll explain you investing, they'll explain you health, and so on. So I think that the use of large language model as
I think now they're doing a great job up until now in not letting everything get out of hand. Again, this is totally unscientific. I believe that the high echelon of the hierarchy in OpenAI, for example, is one of them, or even Google, for what it's worth. And even Microsoft, even though we have Bill Gates, which is like, this very, very weird, dark character. I think up until now, they have been doing a great job on maintaining things within safety boundaries. Let's see. Those are very powerful tools that in the future, if someone with a very crazy idea, or just a crazy idea, or just a different set of priorities, there are certain now... there is a set of politicians nowadays that they only care about themselves, but in a different way than before. Probably politicians only care about themselves in all history, but...
Come on, that's not true. That's not feed into the politicians. They don't only care about themselves.
But let's... sorry, follow me on this. But let's probably there is a factor of narcissism in politics.
Of course.
But before, the politician cared about himself and how he was going to be remembered as. Okay? And that was a force for good in a sense, because that history normally is a very harsh judge. So people were thinking about, okay, how I'm gonna benefit now in a certain way. Some people were probably there are cases of candid people that were helping the community, but the fact that they were caring about how they were going to be remembered made them do things.
Your point is that there's been a change in a moral
point. Now you see.
But let's go back to the point. So you were saying, so we don't lose the thread. Let's go to the point that you were saying, large language model being used in a negative way.
No, if there is one guy like, for example, Donald Trump, which is an amazing, funny character, genius from a marketing point of view. I don't know if you saw his new line of shoes, totally unexpected.
I think.
I don't know what he would do, if how he would, the bias that he would insert in this language,
of course,
model, if he had a hand into it, So.
I mean, I think this has been the argument for Twitter. For long, the liberals were very positive about Twitters, like a Square and so on. The moment that Musk took over Twitter, it was seen, okay, this is going to be the platform of evil. And probably that's not the case. I think Musk also went with some positive intentions, such as making free speech more ensured and transparent. The mechanism and methodology behind the technology behind free speech more transparent, like publishing the code and so on. I don't have a strong opinion about it, but I'm just saying that he came with this point of view, and the same thing is about any technology. Any technology can be used for good and bad, right?
Yes, I have on the Musk topic. I have a very high opinion of Musk. I think that it's a scandal that he hasn't been given the Nobel Prize. I think it's a scandal. No, I'm telling you. Look, he has revolutionized many industries, but his most important thumbprint are what he's doing with Twitter, and today my memory is gone. The satellite internet company, Starlink. Those two things, in my opinion, are two forces for good. One of them, the Twitter one, because it has broken the the potential government censorship of social media platforms. Because if suddenly X allows for certain forbidden accounts to express themselves, and other platforms they ban them, the audience will go to X. So market laws will oblige YouTube and Instagram and Facebook to be more open. So I think it's for free speech he's done net good. And then Starlink, one of the tragedies of this 21st century is that still we have areas in the world that are underdeveloped, and they are developing at a very slow pace. And the Western world, or let's say the developed world, Western world is an archaic topic term. The Western world, we are developing at almost light speed. What is the difference? Is access to information and the infrastructure
and capital.
The infrastructure, the capital, don't allow for Central African countries to give to people in the rural areas access to internet. If the new generations of Congolese children can access internet in schools, they will do amazing progress for their communities. And for this, Starlink, or for what it's worth, Google also did an amazing project with the balloons. These people are really changing. I'm passionate about this.
They're really changing, and again, they go back to the idea, okay, if I can give ChatGPT or any large language model platform to a kid in Nigeria, or Nigeria is already very developed, but in another country that it's more where education system is struggling, if the same kid can access the tutor that it's trained on ChatGPT, it will be able to learn way faster and leapfrog, catch up with the kids in Europe or in the US or in part of Asia. So that's definitely true. There is one argument about Starlink that is a very important argument, is that we're giving a lot of power to a single man. Starlink is being used in conflict situation such as Ukraine and Russia. The story is that at a certain point Starlink was given to the Ukrainian army, then it was revoked from the Ukrainian army, and that caused a significant imbalance and affected the history big time, of the history of the specific conflict. And I think that's something that it's a reminder also that for as much as we need to praise these entrepreneurs, they're doing so much, we need to be also careful with the concentration of technology in the hands of few, because at a certain point, if it's not a democratically elected government, but it's an individual who make a lot of money to take decision on so many human beings, even in a conflict situation, that's concerning.
But then we move into another interesting topic, which is: do you trust more a democratic elected government that, let's say, is made of people that have commitments with financiers of their political campaigns, or with a guy that doesn't give a crap and is just doing it because he thinks because it's a guy that is already a millionaire, and he might have good or bad intention, but let's say governments or self-made individuals. In this case, I admit the potential problem. I think the case of Musk appears to be the case of a person with just great dreams, great ideas, and just lack of self-control when speaking. But nowadays I don't think I trust governments more than I trust millionaires. I think I trust millionaires more than I trust governments, because billionaires especially, they already have wealth.
But billionaires, who's accountable to? They're not accountable to anyone because they already enough wealth, so they technically can decide to whatever they want for their own good. They don't, but where the government still, even in an imperfect democracy that we all acknowledge the limits, they are accountable to voters, and voters wanna technically in ideas, they wanna maximize the common good.
Billionaires already have everything. They're accountable to history, and the only thing that they don't have is that they cannot control his reputation.
But it's their own perception of history and reputation.
At the end of the day, what is branding? perception is, let's say, reputation is branding. What is branding? The definition of branding is what your clients think of you. That's the definition of branding.
Yeah.
So reputation is what people think of you. When you already have everything, then you really need to do things for good, because the only thing that you haven't achieved is other people's opinion. This is why I am not against extreme wealth, because I believe that when you reach a certain point, there is nothing that you buy that can give you satisfaction. You already have power, because these people, they can buy politicians, they can move the needle in one way or another. The only thing that they cannot buy is the narrative.
I believe that Harvey Weinstein or many other millionaires or
he
billionaires.
was not a billionaire.
It was a multi-millionaires had achieved amazing reputation. Was frequently praised during the Oscars by the most important stars to be the engine for their dreams. For the Miramax was the most incredible company. But then we realized that his idea wasn't about maximizing everyone's good. He was doing a lot of negative things behind the curtains. I don't think the money correlates with good intention. That's my point.
No, but I think there is a difference in size. If you are Harvey Weinstein, you are actually quite a small fish, and the Oscars are something that really, they are an anecdote. When you are part of a big company, like, imagine Tim Cook, imagine Elon Musk, imagine Facebook. If by the way, you can be held accountable by other people that want to take your place. There is an incentive in punishing your mistakes if you make them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's an incentive to do things, but I don't mean that the things that CEOs they do, they're necessary for maximizing the good of everyone. They're to maximize the good of the shareholders.
But not Elon Musk is Elon Musk when he does, let's say, he has reached a point of wealth that, and especially, for example, in the case of Twitter. In the case of Twitter, he took the company out. So he's doing it for himself, for the world, because for the idea there are not shareholders of X.
Well, but they're shareholder of Tesla, and then doesn't mean that only any.
Yes, but Starlink is private. There is he's just doing it for the good of the company.
The fact that he has ownership of different companies, some private, some public, that's a fact. No one is judging that. The point is that what I'm getting out of your conversation is that after someone has reached a lot of wealth, whatever he's gonna do after the threshold is just maximizing the good for humanity.
No, what I'm trying to say is that I think that scenario is more likely than a democratic government behaving for the good of their people. I believe that nowadays the term democratic government is a smoke curtain for just influence trade and mass manipulation. I don't think there is real democracy, because I don't think there is real... The real democracy can only exist when the voters are educated and well informed. And I don't think that's the case. You can make also the counter argument that has never existed in history. Yes, but 50 years ago, there was a certain ideal of becoming educated and informed. Nowadays, that's not even a priority.
But would you rather live in a country that's ruled by a billionaire or a country that's ruled by a democratically elected government?
Today, 2024, a billionaire.
You would prefer a Musk to any politician?
100%. 100%. Tell me one government in the world that is working good right now.
The definition of good is such a wide
definition.
I think that I think democracy is far from perfect, but it's the best system of all, because
I don't think we have put in practice the best system. I think democracy is the first step, and some time a time will come in which we will start talking about
But
different system.
I
think democracy needs to be. Democracy needs to be. You need to deserve democracy.
Fair enough, but you still prefer to live in a dictatorship than
No.
a democratic government.
No.
But I'm proposing you a dictatorship. What is a government? A country ruled by a single person that is not accountable to voters is a dictatorship.
Okay, fair enough. So Singapore is a dictatorship, which it kind of is. Dubai is a dictatorship, which it kind of is.
Yeah.
If I would prefer to live in Singapore, that I would feel safer to develop my life in Singapore rather than develop it in Spain or in Italy, 100%.
Would you prefer Myanmar to Italy or Spain? Because
No.
Myanmar
But you said
dictatorship.
you said I'm just giving you one possibility of the spectrum. I didn't say I like all dictatorships. I say that, in my opinion, nowadays democracies are a non-functioning structure. They just have their own sets of incentives and rewards. Singapore is sort of like a dictatorship, but they do one thing very well. They have a very clear set of incentives and rewards, and that clarity of law, and it goes along with other things that I don't like, like being nuanced and accepting that people sometimes make mistakes. So it is not correct to kill mentally handicapped person for bringing 10 grams of heroin from Malaysia. But I think that system is more sustainable in time than a fake democracy in which what happens is there are rich families behind putting in place certain politicians that normally reach a level of government, a high level of government, because they have skeletons in the closet and they can be taken down, because that's what happens, in which we live in countries, I don't know if in Italy it's the same, but I tell you what happens in Spain, in which the general population believes that it is a scandal that the president of the Spanish government, the prime minister, makes 100,000 euro per year. I think it is a scandal that he doesn't make 10 million. Do you know what I mean? We live in a world in which we have been sold the idea of democracy, but we don't have well-educated people to hold that government accountable. So we are left to their propaganda and to their tactics to put us against each other. If what I propose, and this is the first time that I publicly talk about this thing, what I propose is a system in which there is the possibility for everyone to vote, but that vote needs to be earned through, can be an exam, it can be a test of general knowledge. Now, who's going to make the questions? The questions, they need to be made by people that are not in government, but people that you can make a good set of rewards and incentives. Imagine that you do this test every 2 years or every year, and the top 0.01% can opt to be in a sort of like national council to create the questions and the level of this exam, and if they get tax cuts for working for the state, for example. But
there is a very strong correlation between education and wealth.
Exactly.
How do you ensure everybody is like?
No, but at the beginning, you need to have people that are educated, and then there is another rule that there should be always a high percentage of the GDP dedicated to education. Another thing that to me is bollocks is that teachers are badly paid. Nowadays, I don't know what is in Italy, but in Spain, 30 years ago, when I was in school, teachers were revered. They were respected people. you could make a good living being a teacher. Nowadays you are a pariah. You ended up being a teacher because you cannot do anything else. So how do you expect society goes well with that system?
I think we are touching so many topics that the risk that we are doing a lot of confusion around.
Yeah,
that.
we need to put a limit in time.
But you need to put a limit in time and a discussion. I think it's interesting discussion about political systems and so on. I think we can agree that we strongly disagree on this topic, but it's a conversation.
Let's prepare one special topic.
Definitely.
We should. I don't know which day in the calendar is the 1st of May. But because of the political significance, we could try and publish one 1st of May.
Definitely.
It's a Wednesday. We can publish one on the 3rd on this topic. We study. I will sharpen my knives, and I will come against you.
Definitely.
No. And actually, I just realized I have to go back to work because I have a call in 20 minutes. Grande Filippo Sebastio. I feel extremely...
A pleasure.
I feel extremely... how can I say? Energized. And I feel like you have gifted me with your time. So I strongly appreciate it.
And it's always a pleasure to sit down
and thank you for lunch.
Things.
He paid for lunch today.
Well, you always do.
Filippo, well, I see you...
Are there any sponsors that you need to any things that we need to do before?
No, today we don't have wine sponsor. Thank you for telling me. But I can announce that we are going to have a new sponsor.
Okay, excellent.
It's a running and cycling clothing company.
Fascinating.
They are founded by a friend of mine, and he's going to send us merchandise and caps and everything to try. And I'm actually, we're going to make it big in Asia. I'll tell you more. I'll tell you more in the next episode, guys. Thank you for joining. Whoever made it up to here, but again, thank you mainly to you. I don't know who has the last words because now who's the guest?
You have the last word because you always give the last words.
I have the last words. Yeah. So thank you to you, Filippo. Thank you to everyone that has made it to this podcast, especially to the guests from the 1st to the 14th. Actually, you were already here, but you're double.
You're double counting.
We have crazy special podcast coming up. I'm recording 2 this weekend. One of them is going to be especially groundbreaking. So hang on, subscribe, enjoy, have a happy weekend, and see you soon. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Molto freestyle,
Molto freestyle.
Però mi sono divertito.